Hi, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. It is 7 o'clock right now. Welcome to Social Emotional Learning, Connecting Digitally with Students. Tonight's webinar is going to be all about social emotional learning and the digital tools that we can use to help promote social emotional learning, or SEL, as you might hear me call it tonight. Um, it's kind of going to be a bit of an information dump tonight. I have a lot of really, really great resources that I'm going to share with you. Some of them are going to be resources that we can use online tools to create and personalize for our students. And other things I share with you tonight are going to be resources that are already out there, just waiting for us to find them and use them with our students. There's going to be a lot of information, a lot of different tools mentioned. And tonight, I'm not going to go into detail about how to use these tools particularly. I will briefly show you, but then I will show you the social emotional side of them. So I will be providing links to more in-depth tutorials for each one of these tools I show you in case you're completely unfamiliar with them. You'll kind of have somewhere to go and see how that tool is actually used, how you get started with it if you're looking to try it in your own classroom. Tonight's webinar is hosted by WHRO Public Media. We are based in Norfolk and we are owned by 21 owner school divisions. And we provide a lot of services for teachers and students and schools throughout Virginia. Um, our webinars are always free for our owner school divisions. So keep a lookout in the future for more to come. My name is Janie Everett. I'm the Educational Technology Manager at WHRO, and my role is to provide professional development for educators in our 21 owner divisions. My email address is listed right here. Feel free to contact me at any point if you have any questions about tonight's presentation, or if you have requests for professional development in the future, or anything that you need at all related to technology. Don't hesitate to reach out to me. Also tonight, we're going to have another presenter in the second half of the session, Lindsay Horner, our eMedia VA manager, and she'll introduce herself a little bit more later. So after tonight, you're going to see an email from me sometime in the next few days, either Thursday or Friday, and it's going to come from that email address listed on the screen. And in that email, you're going to see a certificate of attendance for tonight for 1 hour. You're going to find a link to the slideshow that you're viewing tonight. You're also going to see a link for a very brief survey, and we would really appreciate if you could fill out that survey to let us know how we did tonight, and also to let us know what other types of webinars you would like to see from us in the future. I'm also going to include in that email a link to where you can find a recording of tonight's webinar. I'm recording right now, and we will get that posted at whro.org/webinar. But again, no worries. I will send that link out to you in the email. And one last thing before we get started, if you have any questions tonight as we're presenting, feel free to ask those questions. You can enter those into the Q&A section of Zoom, and we may not get to them right away while we're presenting, but we're definitely going to try to leave some time at the end of the presentation to answer any questions that you have. And if we need to, we can stick around for a little bit afterwards as well to answer those questions. So type away, and we will definitely get to those before we leave tonight. Or again, if you have any questions afterwards, feel free to email me. All right. So as I talk tonight, you're probably going to hear me reference LMS quite a bit. LMS stands for Learning Management System. And a learning management system is just a common place where educators put all of their resources and materials for their students to find. Here are some of the common ones listed on the screen: Google Classroom, Schoology, Canvas, Moodle, Desire to Learn, and so on. So if you hear me reference LMS, that's what I'm talking about, Learning Management System. And a lot of you are probably using at least one of these at your school. And all of the tools that I talked to you about tonight work really, really well with all of these learning management systems. They mesh and they go together easily so that we still have that one nice place for our students to find all of their assignments and all of their resources. And if you do not use an LMS and you're not familiar with any of these items on the screen, that's completely fine too, because everything that we show you also can be used standalone by themselves. So, what is social emotional learning? SEL is the process through which all young people and adults acquire and apply knowledge, skills, and attitudes that are listed here in these bullet points. It helps us develop healthy identities, manage our emotions, achieve our goals, feel and show empathy, maintain relationships, and make responsible decisions. And I actually took this slide directly from Heather Peterson, which is going to lead me directly to my first resource that I would like to show you. So exactly a week ago, we had Heather Peterson present a webinar for us. Heather is the Climate and Culture Director at Hampton City Schools, and she talked to us about social emotional learning, creating connections, and building resilience. You do not need to have viewed that webinar to be here tonight. It's okay if you did not catch that. However, I very, very highly recommend that if you did not see that, you go back and take a look at it, because Heather gave us some really great information on what SEL is, why it's important, and why it's something that we need to be thinking about when we're putting together lessons for our students. So like I said, I'm going to share my whole presentation tonight with you in an email in the next few days. And on this slide, the first link at the top where it says SEL Google Slides, that's a link directly to Heather's slides from last week. So I highly recommend taking a look at those. And then the bottom link is whro.org/webinar. And that's where you can find not only tonight's recording, but the recording from last week where Heather did her presentation. And also at that website, you can check out any webinars we've done in the past. We've covered topics like distance learning, blended learning, and plenty of others. And we're going to continue doing webinars and posting them all there as well. So go ahead and check out Heather's presentation if you get some time. She did a phenomenal job. All right, going forward from this point, I'm going to start giving you a whole lot of information, a whole lot of resources, and it may be a lot, but just remember a couple of things. The information I give you tonight, you do not need to go take to your classroom and do every single item and every single resource this week with your students. That would be way too much. That's crazy. What I would love is if you find just one or two things tonight that you can really grab and latch onto and say, hey, I want to try that in my classroom, and then go ahead and try applying it in your classroom in the next couple of weeks. And then if that is successful, then go ahead and try another one after you have conquered the first one. And all of these slides I give you tonight are going to be full of links to all the things I'm talking about. So I'm not going to leave you hanging. I'm going to provide you every single resource that I show you tonight. And again, if you have questions, put them in that Q&A and we'll definitely get to them later, and we'll make sure we address them all beforehand. Or not beforehand, but afterwards. All right, so the first resource that I would like to show you tonight is Epic. And another thing, a lot of these resources that we see tonight might sound familiar to you. I have some really common ones in here, some very popular ones. But what you may not realize is that these resources that we're using all the time with our students actually have really great social emotional learning aspects to them as well. And Epic is definitely one of those resources. For Epic, you can download the app or you can go to getepic.com. It's a wonderful free resource for teachers and for students. And basically, it gives you a whole bunch of free ebooks, audiobooks, and videos to use with your students. And they're all filtered by topics as well as reading levels. They have all sorts of different reading levels. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and escape out of my presentation, my full mode here. There it goes. And I'm going to head right over to getepic.com. All right, so I'm already logged in. And when you go to Epic, you will have to create a class in Epic. It's not very difficult, and I'm not really going to get into that tonight. But like I mentioned, in my slideshow up here in the top right corner, whenever you see this little red YouTube symbol with the play inside, that means that you can click on that and it's going to take you out to a YouTube link, a YouTube video where another educator has done a really great tutorial on this tool. So if you want to use Epic in the future, but you're not really sure how to navigate it, you can come right back to my slideshow, click on this little link in the corner, and another great educator is going to show you the ins and outs of getting started with epic.com, because tonight that's not really going to be our focus. So tonight, I'm going to show you quickly how you can search for books in here, and more importantly, books that deal with social emotional learning. So right away, once you're logged in, you probably notice that there's this big search bar right at the top. So any topic that you are looking to find books for your students, you can search right here. So if I were looking for books and information about lizards, I'm going to type in lizards, and we'll see all sorts of things come up. There are books that I can choose for my students. There are also a lot of videos about lizards. There are audiobooks, which of course means somebody reads the books aloud on the site to the students. And you can also format your search options as well. So you can choose the age of your students. You can choose their reading level, and you could go off of DRA or Lexile, FMP, whatever it is that you use at your school. Fiction, nonfiction, what language the book is in, all sorts of things. So I'm going to click on monitor lizards and take a look at this book to see if this is something I'm interested in for my students. If I click on a word, there, it gives me the pronunciation, what type of word it is, and all sorts of information. I can click this again to hear what it sounds like, and I can flip through the pages of this book. Okay, I like that one, so I'm going to click on this little heart. I also like Do Lizards Eat Ice Cream? And you should see they're all starting to pop up over here on the side of my screen. This one. And I also want an audiobook. I'll do this one. Okay. So now over here, I have all of these books that I chose, and you can see some frog ones from earlier as well. And I can assign to students. And I can create an assignment, call this one Lizards, and I can choose a start date if I want to, instructions, assign to the whole class, or just some of my students. And then if I go to my library, I can check out my collections that I've made in the past. Here's one I made on social emotional learning. And I can share this by grabbing the link and putting it in my learning management system. I can email it directly to my students, put it on Twitter if I wanted to, all sorts of really great things in Epic. So Epic actually already has a category for social emotional learning. So if you come up here and hover over the word explore, you'll see a topic here along with science, math, social studies, and all of that called social emotional learning. And then you can pick from all of these different categories as well. So if I click on mindfulness, here are all sorts of books and videos and audiobooks related to mindfulness. And I can go ahead and pick one of them, assign it to my students, or I could add them all to a collection like we were doing earlier and assign that whole collection to my students. And as I showed you, Epic is really great for just giving you a link, and you can throw that link in your learning management system and have your students click on it and come find all of these really great social emotional based books. Okay, so back to my slideshow. Any of the pictures that you see in my slide are going to link out to the sites that I'm showing you as I present. So this one is going to take you to a collection of books on social emotional learning. And if you click on this photo, it's going to take you to that section of the Epic page that shows you where all the social emotional learning resources are. And then of course, up here is the tutorial. All right. Going on to our next resource, we're going to take a look at Jamboard. This is Google Jamboard, so you can find it for free in the Google Suite. And there's also an app that you can download for Jamboard as well. And in a nutshell, Jamboard is basically like a blank digital whiteboard that you can add all sorts of information to. You get this blank slate and you can add things to it. And here are some examples of things that I've made that I'm going to show you a little bit closer. So first, here's how you create a new Jamboard. You go to your Google Drive and you click on New. And usually for me, it's not right here. I typically have to click on More, and then there it is, Google Jamboard. So I would click on Jamboard and a brand new blank one will open up. I'm going to open this one I already have made though. All right, so here's what it looks like. It's blank. It's just like a big whiteboard for you to put all sorts of information on for your students. And it's part of Google. So you have all sorts of annotation tools over here that you can use. Eraser, pointer, sticky notes are wonderful. You can add your own pictures, or better yet, you can go to Google Images and you can just copy a picture and paste it right in here without having to save it to the device first. You can make shapes, you can add text as well. So here are some really great things that I have done with Google Jamboard. I made this little check-in chart. So, you know, it's really easy when you're in the classroom to say, all right, give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down based on how you feel about the topic that we just covered. And you can kind of look around your classroom and see what everyone's doing. But if we're teaching digitally, we don't always have that luxury of seeing everyone right there in a room together and giving a thumbs up or a thumbs down. So this is a little bit of an easier way to do that. I created this entire chart right here in Jamboard. I put in the text, the rectangles, I copy and pasted these from Google Images. And then the students came in here and created a sticky note with their name on it. And they stuck their name to the thumb that they were relating to most. Either they understand the topic, they're almost there, or they need some help. And this is a really great way to connect with your students and see if they've really nailed this topic, or if there's someone that you're going to have to go back to and provide more help to later. How did the students get in here? How did they do this? So just like any other Google tool that you're using, whether it's a Google Slide or a Google document or whatever it is, you can click the share button up here in the top right corner, and it's going to give you a link for this Jamboard. You can copy the link. You'll want to double check the settings. Some school districts have bizarre Google settings. So make sure you're reading what it says here under get link, and make sure it says like anyone on the internet can view or anyone can edit, or you'll just have to look at that. They're different for every school district, but you just want to copy that link, and then you'll head right over to your learning management system and paste the link right in there with the students' assignments for the day. And they can come right in here and in like 5 seconds do their quick check-in on the topic. Something else I've made in Jamboard is the morning check-in. And this is truly a little more based on how students are feeling and what their emotional state is like that day. So I actually made this background in Google Slides, and I exported it as a photo, as a JPEG, I believe. And then I uploaded it into here as a background. So you can see, you can change the background in here. So the students can't move any of this. They can't move the smiley faces. They can't move the boxes. They can't change the text. As they click around, they're not going to be able to move any of that. What they can move, though, are these little icons, because I just copy and pasted those in from Google Images. So what you would do as a teacher is, again, you would grab this link and put it into your learning management system every morning, and your students can come do a check-in. And say you have a student named Bob. Bob knows that his symbol is the star. So Bob's going to come in that day and move the star to how he's feeling that morning. And the reason we have symbols and not names is that so the students don't have to see how each other are feeling. They don't have to be embarrassed or insecure about putting their symbol down here on upset or sad or however they're feeling. Every student knows what symbol they are. They don't need to share it with any other student. They can come in the morning, do their daily check-in. All they can move around is the symbol. And then at some point during the day, when you have a moment, you can go into that Jamboard. You can check out where all of your students are at, how they're feeling. These students are feeling great. Maybe you want to comment on that to them. Hey, Julie, saw you're feeling awesome today. So glad about that. Anything cool happened last night you want to tell me about? Or, hey, Aiden, I saw that you're feeling sad today. Is there anything you want to talk about? Is there anything I can do for you? Really great way to check in with your students. So I'm going to share those with you. If you come to my slideshow when this is all done, this photo is going to link out to the Jamboard that I made. And this one is as well. So you can, steal those from me. You can change the icons. You can change the students' names, of course. These are all student names that I made up, and you can just take those right from me. I made them for you to use. Feel free to steal them and do as you will with them. If you're still a little confused about Jamboard, there's another excellent educator right up here who does a tutorial on Jamboard, and you can check out how to use it at youtube.com. All right. Moving on to my next tool, we're going to move to Flipgrid. And this one is super popular. You've probably heard of it. This was by far one of my students' favorite tools to use when I was still an elementary school teacher. So I absolutely love talking about Flipgrid, and your students are going to love you if you use this with them. You can go to flipgrid.com to access this, or you can download the app. And Flipgrid is basically a safe place where students can share their voice with their entire classroom. So it's a website where you post a topic, like, for example, share what you did over the weekend. And students can go upload videos of themselves talking about what they did over the weekend to Flipgrid. But when I say safe, I mean there are all sorts of security settings on Flipgrid. So not just anybody can get in to view these videos. And I'm going to show you what some of those security settings look like. So let's go ahead over to Flipgrid. All right, so I'm going to log in as an educator. And of course, Flipgrid is free, just like the last two resources that I've showed you as well. Okay, I'm going to create a group and I'm going to call it 10 o'clock a.m. English. And, maybe I would have a different group for all of my different classes. Here's the really cool security setting part where it says permissions. You can set this so only students in your Google Classroom can get into these videos. You can give each student their own unique username to get in, or you can do student email. This is always what I did. So when I worked at Virginia Beach City Public Schools, I would type in @vbstudents.com. And now I work at WHRO, so I would do WHRO.org. And now when I create my Flipgrids, only people who have email addresses ending in VB Students or WHRO are going to be able to get into my Flipgrid. All right, so my group is ready. Here is the link to give it to my students, but I don't want to do that yet. I'm not really ready. We want to start adding topics. So here's a topic that all of them come with. It's just hello, I am. It's a little introductory piece, but I'm going to create a different topic. So I'm going to title this chapter 4. Maybe my classroom is reading a chapter book and we're at chapter 4 and I want my students to reflect on chapter 4. So I'm going to ask my students, how did Laura feel when she moved to a new school? How would you have treated Laura if she was new at your school? Tell about a time you were new at something. So here we are again, connecting socially and connecting emotionally, getting these students to connect to a character and tell about a time that they went through something tough and had some of these feelings as well. So they can be a little more empathetic towards this character and maybe towards other kids in their school who are new as well. And then you can add fun stuff here like smiley faces and GIFs and all that sort of stuff, which, students love. Jazz it up. If you want to, you can put a password on this topic so that your students can't get in until you release the password to them. And then there are some other settings here as well. Your topic is ready. Here's a link. I can go ahead and copy that link, put it in my learning management system so that my students can get here. I could put it directly into Google Classroom. I can get a QR code for it. I can get an embed code for it, all sorts of stuff. So now I'm going to show you what Flipgrid looks like from the student side. So here's what it looks like when you're a student, when you grab that link from your teacher and you put it in. You see all the pictures and the GIFs and stuff that your teacher picked out. You also see the topic, the date, and also the directions right here that your teacher gave you, so you know what you're supposed to be talking about in your video. And then you click here to record a response, and away you go. And once you have recorded your response, all of the videos show up here, so students can go ahead and see each other's responses as well. Okay. So okay, sorry about that. My toddler came into the room and needed something. So, the joys of working from home with COVID. I apologize for that. Okay, so anyway, all the videos would be down here. Students can see what the other kids are saying too. So Flipgrid has some really great social emotional resources as well. So when you're logged in as a teacher and you click on Discovery, you can search topics. So you can search grids that other teachers already made And you can just go ahead and copy those and grab those and use them with your own students so that you don't have to start these directly from scratch. So maybe I want to search for show and tell. This is a really good one. And you'll see all sorts of show and tell topics come up here. And you can just go ahead and add that topic to your own Flipgrid so that you can use with your kids in the future. And you can check out all the settings and you don't have to start from scratch. Another great one is, let's see, I like this one. Tell me something good. Very simple, but all of these educators have created these flips for tell me something good. So when your students come in, maybe on Monday morning to your digital classroom, and you want to start that week off on a positive note, you can give them a link for the tell me something good Flipgrid. They have to go in and record maybe 30 seconds of themselves talking about one good thing that happened over the weekend. And then they get to share that with you and with their classmates, and they can see what all their other classmates said too, and you can check in on them as well. All right. Also in Discovery, if you scroll down quite a bit to featured collections, there is a whole social emotional learning category here with all sorts of SEL related topics that other educators have made. So you can grab these and use them, or you can just come here for some ideas and create some of your own flips from scratch based on what you see here. And of course, fear not, I know that was a lot of information and a lot of clicking, but of course, back on my slideshow, this is going to lead you to that section that I just showed you in Flipgrid in Discovery, where all of those SEL topics are located. So you don't need to waste your time clicking around. You can come right here, click on my picture, and it will take you right to the social emotional learning topics. And of course, if you need a better tutorial for Flipgrid because you haven't ever used it, you can go to the little link in the top corner and another wonderful educator is going to show you how to get started with Flipgrid. It's a really great one. Students absolutely love it. And there are a lot of really great security features on there as well, so that your students aren't just kind of, running wild with videos on the internet. There's a lot of way that you can moderate those to make sure that your kids are being appropriate. All right, moving right along to Nearpod. Nearpod can be accessed at nearpod.com, or there's also an app that you can download. And Nearpod lets you create slideshows for your students. So very similar to what we're doing right now with Google Slides. A lot of great visuals for students to see. However, the difference, what makes Nearpod stand out from the others, is the interactive parts that Nearpod has for students. So not only are your students just viewing the information that you're putting together for them and flipping through endless amounts of slides, but your students can interact with those slides. They can answer questions and move things around and take a look at the real world. So let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like. All right, here's nearpod.com. And you would create a slideshow by clicking on the create button and creating a lesson. I'm going to go ahead and open up this sample slideshow that I've already made, just so I can very quickly show you all of the capabilities that Nearpod has. All right, so Nearpod lets you embed videos from YouTube directly into the slides. So here's a Khan Academy video that I put into this slide. Nearpod also allows you to embed other slideshows that you've made already in Google Slide. So here is a Google slide I made in the past for a different presentation I did, and I was able to embed that directly into my Nearpod presentation, which is pretty cool. There are also a number of models, three-dimensional models in Nearpod that you can include, and students can click those models and drag them around and see all sorts of different views. I used to use this with my fifth graders all the time when we did animal cells and plant cells. But there are some other cool ones too. I think there's like the muscular system and skeletal system and a couple of other really neat ones as well. There are some really cool simulations in here as well in Nearpod that you can include. This was my favorite one to use with third graders. It showed the molecules in matter and it showed what happens when you add heat to molecules and what happens when you add ice or colder temperature to molecules. And this is not the only simulation, there are quite a few of them in there for you to choose from. You can also take some virtual field trips in Nearpod. This one, of course, is of the Egyptian pyramids, but there are hundreds of locations, and students can click and drag around to get a 360-degree view of that location. You can also include questions in your Nearpod slides so that students have to either choose a multiple choice answer or type something in. And then as the teacher, you have the ability to go back and see what your students answered, so you can kind of assess where they're at. There's also this really cool feature where you can tell your students to draw something, and it gives them all of these annotation tools so that they can create something. Um, so Nearpod is really powerful, really powerful presentation tool. You can do a live session where all of your students are on the same slide at once. And as you click along through the slides, your students go through them at that pace as well. So they can't go ahead or fall back or anything like that. They're always with you, they're always on pace. Or you can give them a link for the student paced version. And just like all of the other items we've talked about, you can grab a link and you can go ahead and put that in your learning management system, and your students can see the presentation that you have created for them and they can go through it at their own pace. So this obviously connects to social emotional learning in really a ton of ways. There are so many ways to check in with your students on Nearpod and be creative with it. But again, Nearpod has already gone a step ahead and created some of those SEL resources for you. So when you are on your home Nearpod page and you click on Nearpod library on the left side, all of these different topics come up and you can search social emotional, and tons of really great options of already made free Nearpod presentations come up for you. And they're all sorted out by topics and also what grade level those presentations are for as well. And you can just go ahead and copy those to your own library and you can share the link out with students and you're good to go. You can also make edits to those if there are parts that you want to change once you have them moved over to your own library. And I have shared some with you here. These SEL moments are really great. I've looked through them and I've used them with students and I love them. There are some for secondary students, there are some for primary students. If you've ever heard of Calm, which is the app that teaches students how to breathe and meditate and focus, they have a whole list of presentations from Calm in there. There are some virtual reality experiences in there. Nearpod has some really great things. And of course, if you click on these, they're all linked out so you don't have to take time trying to find these. And there's a wonderful Nearpod tutorial up here if you're not sure how to use Nearpod yet. All right, we've got a few more. Moving on to Empatico. This is actually a very new one for me. Anytime I do a presentation, I like to pick at least one resource that is brand new to me so I can challenge myself and discover something new and great that I can share with other educators as well. And for me this week, Empatico was it, and I've had a really great time with it. Empatico, you can access at empatico.org. And Empatico lets you connect to other classrooms all over the world. So as a teacher, you go in to empatico.org and you create a free account. You have to answer all of these questions about what age your students are, what time of day your class is available, what kind of activities you would like to do, and things like that. And once you answer all of those basic questions, it doesn't take very long. It matches you with other classrooms around the world of teachers who have also signed up for Empatico. So here you can see all of my matches. When I click on my match, these are other classrooms across the world who have matched with me and would like to talk to me. So I have some in the United States, Brazil, Turkey. Really cool, unique experience to get your kids connected with students across the world so that they can just ask questions and see how other students live and how that's different from them. And the cool thing about Empatico too is that it has a whole bunch of teacher resources. So you don't just get matched up with this teacher and then don't know what to do with yourself. It gives you all of these activity ideas, get to know you, a school tour. And if you click on these, it gives you like kind of lesson plans, like here's what you can do once you connect with the other classroom. Here are some questions that your students can ask. Here are some things you should be prepared with. And another cool thing about Empatico is that everything is right in the website. You don't have to leave the website to go into Zoom. You don't have to exchange phone numbers with the other teacher. You chat with the teacher right on this website. You connect on video right on the website. Everything is right here in one place. Really, really cool learning experience. And I really hope some of you branch out and use this. And if you do, let me know, because I would love to know how this one goes. I've used other similar sites, but never Empatico. It has really great reviews and looks like a really awesome resource. So I hope some of you are able to use this. And this link will lead you out to the website. And here's a tutorial for Empatico. Go Noodle. Everybody loves Go Noodle. This is a very old resource that you've probably heard of, but it's just another one of those resources that you may not know has some really stellar SEL videos on the site. And before I show you the actual resource, if you're familiar with Go Noodle, you might be familiar with Cuckoo Kangaroo. And I just felt the need to show you that I dressed up as them one year for Halloween with my 5th grade team. So there's me in the middle, dressed up as Cuckoo Kangaroo. Anyway, Go Noodle is this wonderful, wonderful site that has all sorts of really silly and fun brain breaks for your students. And there are all sorts of articles out there about how important brain breaks are for our students in order for them to truly learn throughout the day. So when you are at Go Noodle, let me go to gonoodle.com. We'll start fresh. You can go to categories. And right here in purple, we have this whole section for SEL and mindfulness. So let's click on maybe enhance focus. And here are all these brain breaks and the amounts of time that they take. And
nimble nostrils. Certain types of deep.
They're all very, very fun, and some of them are really silly. The kids love them. It's a great way to sneak a couple of minutes in their day for something fun and refreshing to get their mind off of what they're doing. If you're not familiar with Go Noodle, you can watch the tutorial. The Brain is going to link out to a wonderful Edutopia article about how brain breaks are beneficial for students and learning in the classroom. And this photo is going to take you to gonoodle.com to the SEL section. I have a couple more to get through, and I'm going to go ahead to go through these very quickly. I saved these for the end because they're not very in depth. So Screencastify is a really great tool that lets you record your screen. It's a Google Chrome extension. So you add it on, you can see right up here, it's this little arrow. You click on it, you can record your screen, you can record your voice. And it's a really great way to give your students feedback. If you're checking their work digitally, you can record yourself giving them feedback. It saves automatically to your Google Drive. You can grab the link, send it to your students, and they can see you giving them feedback in real time, even though you're not face-to-face with them anymore. You can also use Screencastify just to record yourself giving them positive messages and send them every day or once a week or once a month. It can be really hard to meet with all of your students individually, digitally once a week. Much easier to record yourself giving them a positive message and sending it to them via email or learning management system. Stop, Breathe, Think is another really great one. There is an app that you can get, and there's a Stop, Breathe, Think for adults, but there's also one for students. What I found this week, even though I've used the app in the past, is that Stop, Breathe, Think has uploaded tons of their videos to YouTube completely for free. So this picture is going to take you to a great playlist for meditation and mindfulness for younger students. This link on the right is going to take you to a playlist for older students to practice their self-awareness. My last two very quickly. Google Drawings is another tool in the Google Suite. And similarly to Jamboard, it's just a big open space where you can create pictures and you get to export them as either JPEGs or PDFs or PNG files. And here are two things that I've done with my students on Google Drawings. First, I have this meme because I used to take my 5th grade students and we used to create memes for our social studies topics. So if we were doing American Revolution, I would tell my kids, go into Google Drawings, create your very own meme. They just had to copy and paste pictures from Google Images and then add some text on top of it. And, they love memes. It's something they're very interested in, and they thought it was hilarious. They were able to get the link and share them with each other. The learning management system, it was really great. You can also use Google Drawings to create a choice board. And I actually did create a choice board. And of course, I have included the link to this choice board so that you can steal it and you can edit it and use it with your students as you like, and you can change the topic as you would like to. And my last resource is Twitter. Simple but highly effective. Probably 50% of my teaching activities come from Twitter. These are some really great hashtags and accounts to follow. I very highly recommend going on Twitter and just typing in hashtag social emotional learning and seeing what teachers all over the world are doing with their students for social emotional learning. That is by far the absolute best way that you can come up with resources and activities for your students in your classroom. So I apologize for rushing through those last few, but I want to move on to Lindsay. So again, feel free to type in questions and I'll try to stick around afterwards and answer any questions because I know I went through those a little bit fast. So Lindsay, go ahead, take it away.
Great, thanks, Janie. And I am just going to share my screen really quick so you should all be able to see me. And I know that I am the only thing standing between you and getting out of here. So I'm going to go through this quickly, but did want to share some of the really great resources that we have available that you can easily integrate. So I'm Lindsay, and I'm the manager of eMedia VA at WHRO, where I work with Janie, which, if you're unfamiliar, eMedia VA is the largest digital media content library in Virginia that caters specifically to Virginia teachers and students. So Janie has presented on so many wonderful tools that we can use to implement SEL into our classrooms and into our homes. And I want to build on that by talking a bit about some social emotional digital media resources that you can use to introduce and reinforce these concepts. Both if you're in a job where you're working training with teachers, we have some great professional development series. And then also if you're discussing these students with discussing these concepts with students. And we'll look at some examples both pre-K through 12. So I'm going to take just a few minutes to show you some examples of the SEL content that we have in eMedia VA. We don't have time, obviously, to go into a lot of detail. And as you can see, these different collections that I've pulled are hyperlinked. So if and when you have more time or are interested, you can come and kind of dive in deeper to these when you have the time. If you're not familiar with eMedia VA, obviously we're not going to go and go through a tutorial. There are different webinars on that. You can just go to our help page on eMedia VA and learn a bit more about how to use the site. So I'm going to choose just one of CASEL's core competencies to walk through. And we've created collections on all of the core competencies, as you can see here. So I'm going to show some examples of self-awareness, which is really the building block of all social emotional learning, because it teaches students that vocabulary of emotions, how to recognize and respond to their own emotions and those of others. So I was going to show you a clip here. So this is from a professional development series. And I love these videos because they're high quality, but they're also really short. So I know some of you are in jobs where you are training teachers and working with teachers on these concepts. So this would be a really great series. So you can see they're short, and there's one for all of the different, the CASEL competencies, and then also some different videos down here as well. So we don't have time to watch one of these. I want to focus more on student resources, but you can see that that's linked. Same with transformative teaching. These are resources from the Dalai Lama Center. And if you're working with middle school or upper elementary, this would be a great one to check out. So these have hands-on examples of activities that you can do with students. And especially, we'll talk about this, but it can be really difficult with secondary students to talk about some of these issues, and there are less resources. So these have some really practical activities that you can do with your students that aren't so, where we're going to talk really openly about our emotions in a way that, teenagers aren't going to be super into at that age. So I want to spend some time here looking at our social emotional learning resources for the core competencies. So you can see here, we've created a collection on resources that you can use tomorrow, next semester, next year with your students on the 5 core competencies. So I'm going to go to self-awareness, and our playlists have about 14 to 15 objects, learning objects or resources in them. So I'm going to play, you can see this is just a couple minutes long, this feelings video here.
Feelings. Today is my birthday. I'm so happy. My grandma is leaving. I'm sad. My brother broke my toy. I'm mad. There are many different kinds of feelings. We smile when we're happy, frown when we're sad, cry when we're hurt, gasp if we're scared, and pout when we're mad.
I'm going to stop it here because it just goes on to show some of the different emotions. It has questions built into the video. So what do we do when we're happy? How do we know this person is happy? And I have a toddler at home like Janie. So, these are things we're doing every day. We're reading a book today. How do I know this dog is sad? How do I know that this person is happy? So, these are great ways to using digital media, which we know study after study shows really helps engage our students, helps them remember concepts for longer. So if you're doing, readings or any sorts of activities, videos are great to go along with. When you're using eMedia VA, always check out the supplemental resources. So for this video, there are discussion questions that you can use with your students, whether or not you're even going to use the video. And then there's also an activity. I was going to show you, if any of you, use Sesame Street at home or with your students, you're probably, there's a lot of good Daniel Tiger and Sesame Street. I love this. I live in 2 different world videos. This could be great. I'm not going to play it, but great for the beginning of the year when we're talking about how we do things at school is a little different from how we do things at home. So that's a really good one. So I'm going to go back here, and I'm not going to show anything from here, but if you're familiar with Arthur, this is a great series, especially that you can use with upper elementary. So Arthur is so great because it covers so many topics like diversity and inclusion, it's civic engagement, the arts, and building SEL skills, which of course is what we're talking about. So I'll just show you this, but you can see this. I was going to show you this interactive comic here, but I want to show some secondary resources too on empathy, where Arthur, not really meaning to, takes it a little bit too far and how he makes fun of his friend. So we can see the video is here, but there's also this cool interactive comic that students can walk through, and it asks, I think, questions. How do we know that the friend is not in on the joke, but is kind of the butt of the joke right now, and using more elementary language? So great to use, not just video, interactives. These playlists have handouts and documents as well. So lastly, and then we'll close for tonight, I want to point out some great series we have in our collection that would be especially great for secondary students to integrate social emotional learning into your everyday activities. SEL at the secondary level can be really difficult. There's fewer resources available, and conversations about feelings and emotions, they just have to be more nuanced than they would be with a preschooler or a lower elementary student. I taught high school social studies, so I know how hard this can be, and certain topics like social studies lend itself more easily where we can kind of discuss hard things that happen throughout history. So much of it at the secondary level is really building those relationships with students and also creating environments where students feel accepted and comfortable discussing hard topics. So I just wanted to point out a few different series that we have that are just going to help you create a really great classroom environment. So starting early in the year, getting students talking, a lot of these series go towards that. And oh my goodness, I did not link. I'm going to have to go back in. I did not link my all-time favorite. If you've ever done a training with me, I always show an above the noise example, and I didn't put it in here. So I want to point out PBS NewsHour. Current events are a great way to incorporate SEL into any classroom. When we can turn our classes over and discuss current events, we can help students shift the center of their universe to others and imagine what other people are feeling. So you can see, I just did a search here on PBS NewsHour. So right at the top, I sorted by most recently published. You can sort it's going to sort by relevance automatically, but most recently published with current events is kind of important. So we see right at the top some recent news reporting on George Floyd and also the trial of Derek Chauvin, which already, this is from day 4, is probably going to be not a great resource to use because the verdict has already come in. But these are tough things to talk about with students, but they're things that students really want to talk about and want to hear from you about. So we have videos, we have lesson plans here to do current events. We see some of the issues happening at the border, gun control and mass shootings, but we can't talk about these things if we don't have that classroom environment set up where students are going to feel comfortable. Just pay attention for the clock. Like I said, I would be remiss if I did not show you above the noise. So I'm just going to go, I will put it in the Google Slides presentation, so you'll have it before Janie sends it to you. But you can see I'm just doing a vendor search here for above the noise. I'm going to remove PBS NewsHour. There. Okay. So such a great series for discussion. Would you invest in the stock market? Is it time for you to ditch dairy? Is there an upside to distance learning? Should politicians have no filter on social media? So this is a restricted learning object. So almost all of our resources are available without logging in, but you can see here, just click here. Oh, it told me before, but the reason that this is restricted is because it shows Elizabeth Warren drinking a beer. So for secondary students, not something they're going to mind, but for younger students, it may not be appropriate. So we're not going to watch all of this, and is this super SEL specific and getting students to talk about their feelings? Not necessarily, but a great series to use to get students talking, comfortable, engaging with each other. And then there are ways to ask, how would you feel if you were ex-politicians? Or how did that make you feel watching that? Was it cringy? So we're just going to watch a minute of this.
What's up, everybody? Miles Best here, host of Above the Noise. Now, today, we're going to be talking about politicians on social media. I've been doing some scrolling, been on the internet. Take this guy. Mark Warner, for example, senator of somewhere, I forget, but he was online and he was making a tuna melt. You know, seems like he's being authentic, right? Who doesn't like a tuna melt? However, the guy just microwaves the fish. I don't know about you, but I don't trust a person who puts fish in the microwave. He didn't even bother to toast the bread, but his authentic self. I don't know, you're probably like, dude, the election's over. Why do I even care about politicians and why do I care about them being on social media? Well, I'll tell you why. There was record-setting youth turnout in the 2020 election. 25 million people under the age of 30 voted. That's the highest it's ever been. Yes, I said ever, both in raw numbers and percentage of eligible voters. Politicians, they want as much of that youth vote as they can get. They want to suck it up like a vampire. And where do politicians think they can find the youth? On social media. Duh. But here's the thing. Most politicians, they don't really get how to use social media. They have problems following the most important rule of all, which is don't be awkward.
So I'm here at the dentist and we're going to continue our series on the people of the border.
Big gay ice cream is the best.
I'm just chilling in Cedar Rapids.
Liberal Democratic values are sweet, just like the sweet colors.
See? That was hella awkward. But at least they're trying, right? That's gotta count for something. And politicians really want to connect with us on social media. Maybe we have to accept some of that awkwardness as part of the deal. So, should politicians have no filter on social media?
All right, I'm going to stop it there. But again, there's so much that you could discuss and unpack with your students there, and especially that importance of students and young people really driving some of these elections that are coming up. And I know we're out of time. I just wanted to share you with this series. They also do some really great science reporting. I'm going to start by relevance here. Okay, so 4 tips to spot bad science reporting. Does climate change cause extreme weather? And also media literacy. If any of you are librarians or work with them, you can see here, when is your brain ready for social media? YouTube algorithms, deep fakes, false equivalents, that comes up so much. I always think of this video because I find myself bringing up false equivalencies and arguments, and I'm like, nope, can't do it. So again, one of my all-time favorite series. I will stop there and send it over back to Janie, but just to show sound field and It's Lit are great for ELA and music, because music and what we read, it's personal, and there's some great discussions to be had there. And It's Okay to Be Smart is just really great discussion as well. And then of course, having our students represented in our content and our curriculum is going to help them make them feel more welcomed and valued. So I've linked a couple of series there as well. So again, apologies for going over, and Janie, I will send it back over to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Those were really amazing resources. So at this point, we are going to wrap it up. So if you've got to run, go ahead, get out of here. Have a wonderful night. However, as promised, I'll stick around for a couple of minutes in case there are any questions that you want to ask. You can ask those now in either the Q&A or the chat, or you can just email us later if you have any questions, but you've got to run right now. So we'll be here for a few more minutes. And if you're heading out, have a great night. All right, we've got, how do I access EdVA? EdVA. Lindsay, was that something that you covered? EdVA? I think you might have met eMedia VA. Okay, there. And then Lindsay put in the chat, it's emediava.org. That's how you access eMedia VA. All right, things are dwindling down and I don't see any questions left that we have not answered. So feel free to reach out to us at any point. And at this time, I'm going to end the webinar. Everybody have a wonderful night.